Del Rio, Texas, Rob Wade and Robert Garza. Two guys who dive. This episode of Two Guys Who Dive recorded live Saturday, 18 October, 2014. Episode 118, Zombie Apocalypse. Well, welcome everybody once again to another exciting episode of Two Guys Who Dive, and I am your host, Robert Wade, and I'm missing my co-host, Robert Garza. Don't know where he's at. Didn't get a text from him on my Lumia 1020 smartphone. Did not get a text from him about him being gone this week. So we're going to have a special guest appearance by Graza. Say hi to everybody. Okay, that's saying hi to me. Not really the same thing. And we'll set you back here with the other dog. We've got Ronan back there. The one male in our group is he always likes to crash behind me back there. Forgive me as I'm a little bit out of sorts here because A, don't know where Robert's at. B, literally got into the studio just in time to start pulling things together for the podcast because we had some activity going on this afternoon, which we'll be talking about here in a little bit. Today's episode is called Zombie Apocalypse, and that's because, unless you've not been paying attention, Ebola seems to be everywhere. Of course, you have the big outbreak that's going on over in Africa right now. But then we've already had one death attributed to Ebola in the United States, and some other Americans have been infected and come to the United States infected. And now, because of the one death that we have in the United States, we have somebody that's at least one other person, potentially two people who came into contact with him who are under observation, or one has been tested positive and the other one was on a cruise ship and realized felt he had symptoms, so they're bringing him back to find out what's going on. But we'll get more into that a little bit later. But so let's see. We don't have any movie reviews this week, and we normally start off our show with a little bit of a hitting the movie reviews. Sadly, it seems like our local Cinemark theater is, I don't know what's in their head. Matter of fact, let me see. What shows are playing? I'll pull up my handy-dandy Cinemark app on my Windows smartphone here. There goes one of the other dogs. And Cinemark, what do you tell me? I've been frustrated because I was very much looking forward to the third installment in the Atlas Shrugged series, a trilogy of movies based on the Ayn Rand book, of which I'm a big fan. Most conservatives are a fan of Ayn Rand's writing. And I actually did my small part to help kickstart the third movie. So I'm actually an investor. I got a t-shirt, shows I was part of the people that put money into making that movie a reality. And but it has yet to show up here in Del Rio. In addition to that, I was looking forward to the reboot, if you will, of the movie based on the book Left Behind, which is about the rapture, and it stars Nicolas Cage, and the trailer looks absolutely spectacular. I thought, okay, this is going to be a pretty cool approach. And 2 weeks later, it's still not in Del Rio. So I'm really extremely disappointed in our local Cinemark theater. So here's what is showing at the Movies 8 in Del Rio, Texas. Let's see. Another movie based on a book it's for kids. It probably has potty humor, and I'm not a fan. Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. Blah. Okay. And then another stupid horror flick, Annabelle. Tired of that. That was tired when Chucky got to the spawn of Chucky or whatever it was. Let's see. Another quasi-origin story, Dracula Untold. Again, they're trying to paint him to be a hero. And another, The Book of Life, another fake, it's another cartoon. Let's see, Fury, Brad Pitt, not a fan. Can't stand him in most of his movies. The Best of Me, chick flick, not interested. The Judge, I like the actors in the movie, but the premise of the movie doesn't entice me at all. The Equalizer, it's another Denzel Washington, kind of a take on the... this is getting on the whole Liam Neeson kind of formula. Getting revenge on people who do you wrong, blah, blah, blah. And Gone Girl, another... I can't stand Ben Affleck. Speaking of zombie apocalypse, the twit that our president picked for his Ebola czar. I mean, come on, really? Do we need another czar? First of all, why are we calling them czars? I hate that. That's an old Russian term, and it's just, we shouldn't even be using that word. And I get angry every time I hear somebody, I've got to have a czar for this, a czar for that. We've got czars out the gazoo. Out the gazar. And so we've got a new Ebola czar who happened to be the same twit who was over the Solyndra deal, which was a brilliant move by our government to put money into furthering renewable energy sources, which of course went under after we gave them a boost, gave them a lot of money, and then they went under anyway. Government should not be in the business of picking winners and losers, and our current administration continually picks losers, and so that's what he picked for his Ebola czar. And of course, a lot of people got a debate over this, saying, he's a good person, a good idea, a good pick for the Ebola czar because he's good organizing. I'm like, you know what? We got a community organizer for our president. We see how well that's working out. So he picks another organizer who botched the whole Solyndra deal and other things he was involved in, and he's not a doctor. I would rather have somebody, and there are people who disagree, and they have all sorts of interesting reasons why, but I think that they should have a doctor, somebody who is not affiliated with a party per se. Of course, everybody has their political choices, but is truly focused on health, medicine, how diseases spread, those kinds of things. In other words, the things that the CDC, which has been abysmal in this whole situation, the things that the CDC is supposed to be good at, which right now they suck at, and the head of the CDC has been nothing but an embarrassment. But anyway, after I saw who they picked who Obama picked for the Ebola czar, I had to tweet. I said, well, the guy's an idiot. He's a twit. But he'd still make a better Batman than Ben Affleck. So here's Ben Affleck in another stupid movie, Gone Girl, which no interest in seeing. I have no interest in seeing any movie he's in. Let's see. Instead of bringing Atlas Shrugged Part 3 or the reboot of Left Behind, The Maze Runner is still going on. I can't believe that. It was a decent enough movie. I gave it a high rating, but good grief, come on. That's been going on for 4 weeks, and we can't bring in a new movie, especially something that's actually decent and non-offensive. Well, It's not offensive to Christians, but it's offensive to people who are ignorant of such things. So, yeah. So we've got great, and I say this with my tongue firmly in cheek, great movies at the local Cinemark theater. You should be ashamed of yourself. Get your act together so we can actually go out and see some movies. Couldn't see anything on my birthday, which I had my 52nd birthday on the 15th. Unfortunately, my lovely and gracious wife, Tara, and producer of this show, has been catching a healing. She's been a bit under the weather, and so she really wasn't up for going out and do anything. So, that kind of put it down around my normal birthday. And, of course, it was on a Wednesday night when we have church, so I can't really skip that. So I really didn't have any free time to go do anything anyway. So kind of an unusual birthday for me. Not the typical thing I get to go out and do anything fun for myself or with my wife on. But I made it to 52. Thank the Lord I've survived that long. Let's see. In tech news, again, I hate Apple, but out of deference to my co-host Robert, who likes Apple products, I do talk about that stuff. They did announce the iPad Air 2 and the iPad Mini 3. Let me bring up the screenshot here, which, by the way, had a new version of the XSplit broadcaster software that we use for the show, and installed it. And I had high hopes that it would fix the screen region issue, which it didn't, unfortunately. And I posted screenshots to them to say, hey, come on now. This is the second time you've kicked out this version and not fixed this issue. But it's really annoying. The screen, the way the screen region, the way the screen region works is we can. I don't know if I can switch. I probably should switch this camera. When we bring up the software, bring up a scene, you click, I want to add a screen region, and then it creates, your mouse cursor becomes like a crosshair. So you can move it around on your various screens. We have two screens here. Let me switch back to the full shot, see if you can even see that. Yeah, off to my right, I have a second screen here, which we watch typically the main podcast itself. So when I'm looking down, I'm actually watching what's happening on the screen and operating the software. On the right screen, I have videos or some other things or websites typically that I can show. And then Robert, when sitting here, or co-host sitting here, they can see across. They can see past me what's on that screen. And when you move your cursor around, the cursor can operate in a couple of different modes. One is you can just simply highlight an area of your screen. You can just click and drag, and it creates a box that you can resize, and it captures that area. And so it's just generally the desktop. Or it auto-senses the frame of an active window, like Internet Explorer. So you literally, as soon as you move to the edge, it goes bold, and you can see it snapped around the window. And then you click on that, and it will capture that window. And it'll actually tell you the title of the window that you're capturing. Or you can do specific frames within a window like that, which you typically could have in, let's say, a website that you're looking at, where you don't want to see the whole thing, maybe just the YouTube video or something like that. Well, there's been a flaw with the past two versions of this, of 2 point whatever, where if you select a window or a frame within a window, it does it, but what you actually see on the screen is it's empty. It's all white, which is a pain because then you can't see anything when I switch to a screen region. Matter of fact, should I try it? No, I won't demonstrate. But if I grab just the desktop that happens to be around the window, as you can see, it captures it. There's a little bit, I try to get as close to the border as possible so you don't see the actual desktop itself. But I try to get around the border close enough where it just focuses on the actual window. So here we are looking at Apple's website, and so you have the iPad Mini 3 and the Air 2. So let's look at the iPad Air 2. Maybe. I love it. So it supposedly is thinner. It's basically everything else is about the same size, and effectively, most are saying there's really no huge difference between it and the previous version. And then you have the iPad Mini 3. Basically, what they did was they kind of made a little bit better screen, not much, and they added the Touch ID thing. Okay, so having said that, I was like, okay, well, watching the live blogging of the Apple event was kind of funny because I follow a number of Windows fans or Windows people who favor Windows, like Paul Thurrott and Tom Warren, some others, and Ed Bott, and they were yucking it up. They were making fun of the event. Now, what was interesting was I wanted to see afterward. Okay, so what are people actually interested in? Is if the naysayers, if the critics, who I would definitely be among those, but if the critics are saying they're nice, they're an improvement, but not ground shaking, what are the average people going to be doing? And apparently they're not. The response is less than they were hoping for. One of the websites that it's an Apple website. I mean, an Apple fan tech blog site, imore.com, did a poll saying, okay, so what's the deal? If now that you've seen the iPad Mini 3 and the Air 2, what are you guys hoping to get? Because I guess they're now doing the pre-orders from them. Because that's typically how Apple does it. They announce a product, and then about a week or 2 weeks at the most later, it's available to be ordered. So I found the results rather, and this is an Apple, a pro Apple site. So you get all the fanboys on there as well. So I thought it was interesting. The stats showed 25% said they were looking forward to the iPad Air 2 with Wi-Fi. 16% were looking for the iPad Air 2 with LTE. So a pretty sizable chunk in comparison, probably because it's cheaper. Are going to be buying the Wi-Fi, not the LTE version. Okay, probably because they can, Wi-Fi is available for a lot of people, most places. Not so plentiful here in Del Rio, Texas, or they'll just slave it to their phone. They'll set up a hotspot with their phone. Now we drop all the way down to, this was surprising. Third in the poll was 5% are looking forward to iPad Mini 2 because I guess they're expecting the prices to drop, so those will be cheaper. And there's not enough difference between the iPad Mini 2 and the Mini 3 for them to want to spend the money for the Touch ID, etc. So they'll just go for the Mini 2. 4% like the iPad Mini 3 Wi-Fi, and only 2% want the iPad Mini 3 with LTE. But here was the shocker. 46% said they're going to stick with what they have. So you're not going to see as big a run on these as, at least by this poll, of Apple fans. Not going to see as big a run on the new iPads as they did before. Not enough differentiation. I guess the Touch ID is not a big enough thing to draw their attention. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Now, also, that got some play as part of the live blog, or the live tweeting, whatever, of the event, were some of the stats that Apple was bragging about when it comes to the iPad. Now, I'm going to throw this up, and this was Tom Warren had taken a snapshot of this and shared it, and I thought it was very telling. So here we go. So this was the big thing that that Apple bragged about. PC units shipped in the last 12 months compared to the iPad. And of course, their big thing was, oh, look, see, the iPad beats them all. And of course, Tom Warren posted, Apple, let me do the math for you. That's 175 million PCs versus 70 million iPads in 12 months. And that's without the additional OEMs. In other words, these are the top 4 manufacturers of PCs. Okay? There are many other PCs worldwide, PC manufacturers worldwide who sell. I mean, you don't even see Microsoft on there. And they make PCs. They make the Surface Pro and the Surface, etc. So, and of course, I took that and shared it and said, okay, no, Apple, the truth is you don't beat them all. You beat any individual one, which is true. The 70 million iPads is more than the 57 million Lenovo PCs or more than the 54 million HP PCs. But the confusion here is pardon the pun, this is apples and oranges here. In this graphic, they're treating iPad like a brand, not a ecosystem. So if you want to treat this the way it really is, remember, Apple is the sole manufacturer of the iPads. And those aren't numbers to complain about. Though 70 million is great. I'm not saying there's anything bad with that. They're making money and that's great. I'm a capitalist. But I also hate misleading numbers, and Apple is famous for misleading by using graphics that mischaracterize the truth. And so in this case, just the top four PC manufacturers together, if you say PC platform versus iPad platform, PCs clearly still outsell the iPads. Now, it'd be interesting to see another graphic that shows tablets in general, and I'm betting that worldwide that Android, just like with the smartphones, Android is beating. I'll be surprised if Android isn't beating the iPads. So anyway, once again, Apple cheats, lies, all that fun stuff to make themselves look better. The fact is the rate of acquisition of iPads has been declining. Now, it doesn't mean their sales are declining. They're always making more, but the rate of increase has been gradually tapering off because there are plenty of other much less expensive alternatives. In the realm of tablets that are mostly consumption devices, which the iPad is, the competition from Android is as stark or as noticeable as it is in the smartphone realm. So people deciding, you know what, I really don't need to spend that much on a consumption device. I can do the same thing with an Android tablet at a fifth of the cost. And quite frankly, we're now seeing a bunch of PC or a bunch of OEMs get on board with the Windows tablets because of the way Microsoft dramatically dropped its licensing. So we're seeing a plethora of low-cost Windows 8 tablets coming out. And even though I hate Windows 10, the technical preview. I hate it. It basically goes backward to Windows 7, and I hate everybody who is pushing for this. I thoroughly embrace the Windows 8 platform. I love the Windows 8 approach to things. I've very quickly found out how to use it very efficiently. And it just stumps me that people who claim to be power users can't seem to grasp this. But it's because of them that Apple's had to backtrack huge with Windows 10. But having said that, because there are all those plebes out there that are clamoring for this, and the interest has been huge in the tech preview for 10, the excitement on that side of that ecosystem has started to turn around. So it'll be interesting to see how that works for the tablet arena. But I have to say, as somebody who owns a Surface Pro 3 and absolutely loves it, it truly has replaced my laptop. I mean, I still have it, keep it up to date, because there's only a couple of things that it can still do just by sheer size that I can't do on this. But I've not once I got the Surface Pro 3 set up the way I wanted to, I've not actually taken the laptop with me. It's going to be there for if I need to do a portable, a mobile podcast. It's perfect for that because I've got a lot of USB ports on there. It's got a hard drive that I can actually record plenty of video onto. So that's definitely a benefit for. It's less powerful than my Surface Pro 3, but it's got the storage space, so it's still ideal for that. But the times that I do the mobile podcasting are rare compared to the daily use that I get out of the Surface Pro 3. And I've been able to incorporate the tablet feature, the tablet capability of the Surface Pro 3 in ways that I never ever could with the laptop. Namely, gigs, either doing praise and worship at church. I no longer have to have my big binder. It's huge. I have this big binder of sheet music, of charts that we do. And so when we get ready to do something, I have to pull out the sheets and put them up on my keyboard. Well, I have everything on the cloud, and so I can simply pull the music up right here on the tablet and view it and very quickly move through it. And if I, on the spur of the moment, need to pull up another song, I simply go right to the cloud, grab it, and I've got it up. I don't have to bend over and flip through the binder to find a song that I want to do. It's right there. And then, so I've gotten to use it there. And I've been using it also with the contemporary Christian band I'm in, Living Water Sound, been able to use it in the same way. It's very convenient to be able to pull the music up that we're doing and be able to go and see it when the lighting is less than optimal. A lot of the events that we play at often have lighting as a challenge, or it could be a very windy day, which makes it difficult to have the sheet music up there because it wants to blow away or tear or whatever. So it's lit, easy to see, can change the size if I need to zoom in or zoom out. So it's very easy it's a perfect device for that kind of thing. And then also because it also operates as a PC, I can do things like TeamViewer with it so that, for instance, at church, if we are short our media team, which currently happens a lot, I can, right there from my keyboard, right there on the platform, I can bring up TeamViewer, remote control the main computer up in our media department that does our church's live streaming. I can do the whole intro thing right there and then quickly flip right into praise and worship music. So it's just so ideal for so many things. There's no way you're doing that. All of the things I can do with this, you can't do with the iPad, and you can't do with the Android either. So this device is perfect. And now that I love all the aspects of the Surface Pro 3, but like I said, the licensing changes that Microsoft did have resulted in dramatically lower priced Windows 8 tablets, fully functional. Both mini tablets and full size. So we're seeing a huge variety of those come out for prices that just could easily eat away at the iPad sales. So, once again, we see just kind of Apple's got good stuff. I hate their stuff, but Apple's got some good stuff. It's just they're not. Their popularity is not growing though as much as they thought, and I think it's because they're kind of running out of some ideas. So that was interesting to see those stats. Let me check the chat room here, see if we got anybody in there. Nobody's in there right now. Nobody but me. Interestingly, I'm in there twice for some reason. So, that's it for the tech news. I mentioned, of course, last week we didn't have a podcast because, as I told you in episode 117, that the Upstagers, the local community theater group that I'm a part of, was having their annual meeting where they select board members, and it's a party, but we love an excuse to have a party. But it's where they select not only new board members, but they also announce the shows for the season. I'm trying to focus in here, and among the shows that we're doing, I'm more interested in the musicals, are Soup du Jour, which is a show that the Upstagers actually debuted in 2000 and I forget, early 2000s, and we world debuted it, and I actually get royalties from that show because it was since it was brand new. There were some things that I did musically with the show that the musical author of the show liked so much that he said, let me incorporate that into the official published version of the show. So if your theater group decides to do Soup du Jour and you look at the original cast, you'll see yours truly, you'll see my wife Tara in there, and a number of our other very, very talented actors in the Upstagers are part of that group. And I did all the music MIDI so that theater groups who don't have a band like we don't, as long as they have a device that can reproduce the music from MIDI, they the score is right there, so they can take advantage of it. And because there were new arrangements and additional music that I wrote for the show, I get a royalty from it, which is pretty cool. It's not a lot. It's not I could make a living off of it, but it's just kind of a neat thing to have on the resume. But I'll be directing it. So it'll be interesting to see who comes out for it. I'm kind of hoping that it doesn't turn out to be that I have to actually be in the show. I'd rather just direct it this time. And then we're also the big musical we're doing is Nice Work If You Can Get It, which was done in 2012, I think. It's a newer show. Matthew Broderick was the big name that was in that show, and it's basically a bunch of George Gershwin songs. A number of songs that those who are my age or older or just are really big into theater, they'll know the music. A lot of popular standards, etc. But a story built around that kind of typical mixture for a lot of shows back in the day is they would pick like Cole Porter music and then build a show around the songs rather than say, let's come up with a story and write music for the show. That's the way I really prefer a show. Soup du Jour is like that. It's a story and then the authors wrote music that fit the storyline. Whereas Nice Work If You Can Get It is another formulaic, let's put all these Gershwin songs together and see if we can build a show out of it. So, but it's got great costuming. It's a 20s or 30s, set in the 20s or 30s, and so the costumes are period and awesome. So I'm looking forward to. I'll be auditioning for that. So that's in August. So anyway, back to what I was saying. We had that, and it was a successful event and everything. And then also we talked about in the last episode that we were the contemporary Christian band I'm in, Living Water Sound, was going to be performing with a number of name people in the contemporary Christian genre. that were coming through Del Rio as part of a tour, so we got to connect with them, and that was, well, it was under-attended. The attendance was underwhelming. Considering the number of churches that we have in Del Rio, I was really shocked that it wasn't attended better than this, but I had a great time. It was a very impressive evening with very talented people who really got hold of what God's got for them in music, and they're running with it. And it's just awesome to be on a stage and associated in an event with so many talented, gifted, and blessed people. It was awesome. We did get a little bit of video, and I think I may try to put some of that together and share that with you. Also, Living Water Sound's been very busy, and we got more things coming up, especially as we get towards the holiday season. Why I was frazzled coming in was we had as part of the Fiesta de Amistad week, well, there's a annual craft fair that happens downtown. This is the Friday. We had the Abrazo, which I told you that I was going to be doing the national anthem with. I'll get to that in a moment. And then Saturday is the parade and some other number of things, and then the craft fair today and tomorrow. And Living Water Sound usually gets an opportunity to minister or perform or whatever you want to call it one or the other of these days. And so we did today, and it was kind of we weren't sure how it was going to happen, whether it was going to be today or tomorrow. So it turned out to be today, and so it was kind of a rush. A big part of my day was going to get things set up out at Greenwood Park, and it was a good event. We had just gotten used to a new drummer in the band, and so I got to switch back from drums back to the original instrument that I joined the band with, which was keyboards and vocals. And then here our drummer was not available for either day, so I had to suddenly, whiplash, get back on the drums, and of course still play keys because there's a couple of songs that just work better starting out with keys. So brought those, so I'm kind of two-handed playing. That's always kind of fun to watch. It's like a little one-man band. But and my wife got some pictures and video of that, and so I'll be looking over that, and I may share some highlights from that as well in the next podcast. But I just didn't have time to put all that together. But great fun. Always love those opportunities. It's just a bunch of talented guys that I'm with in the band, and if you happen to be in the Del Rio area, anytime we're doing something and have a chance to come by and say hi, please do. Let us know what you think. Let us know if it did anything for you, because we have a blast doing these songs in a ministry type event, which is pretty cool. So back to the Abrazo. I've been doing this for over 10 years. The Abrazo is basically it's the embrace. It's an event that started back with Dwight D. Eisenhower when he and the Mexican president at the time signed the Amistad Dam Treaty to build the dam. It's an international dam because it dams up the Rio Grande, the Devil's River, and the Pecos that all feed into this. So on one side you have the United States, one side you have Mexico. So they built it together. And so at the center of Amistad Dam, as a matter of fact, let me see if I can. I should have thought about that. Let me find a picture. Bing.com. I do not use Google because I hate Android. Amistad. Dun, dun, dun. Here we go. Go to images. All right. Switch to screen region here so you can see. So this is the Amistad Dam. So you see the Amistad Lake behind it. This is what's at the very center. So you see The both countries, incidentally, have the eagle as the symbol of their country. And so here's the one for Mexico on the left, and you have the one for the United States on the right. And, I mean, these are pretty good size. And so what we do is every year, as part of the whole Fiesta de Amistad week, they have the Abrazo. And so we have an MC from the United States, an MC from Mexico, and they read the same script, but one's in English, one's in Spanish, so they just go back and forth. And the countries alternate who goes first with their national anthem. This year it was Mexico's turn to go first, so they went first and everything. So everybody does their thing right up here. So the Mexican band is over on the left of your screen, and then over on the right would be, we always have the Del Rio Middle School band. And I've been working with them every year for this, and so it's great working with them. They're really young, but they're very talented, and so I get to sing the national anthem with them. And as usual, it went off without a hitch. And of course, the Mexican side, they went off without a hitch. They know their job. Well, the emceeing is where things got really, really interesting. Normally, there's a guy I know. He's a manager, I think, of one of the car dealerships here, but he also has a DJ business and everything. Very good speaker. He's got the perfect voice for announcing and for radio, etc. Sergio Diaz. And we know each other, and we always see each other at these events, and so it's like the dynamic trio. The professor, the director of the band for the middle school, and Sergio Diaz and I, we all know we're coming together for this event. Well, I get there and I'm looking for Sergio, and I don't see him anywhere, and then I see a stand-in. I didn't get a chance to talk to the woman who organizes this event every year and who is always my contact to get involved. Pardon me while I take a sip of my non-adult beverage. I didn't get a chance to ask her what's up, where Sergio was, but they had a stand-in. And oh my gosh, when you are dealing with an event like this that's international, sure, it's local, but it's international. So you want to put your best foot forward. So there were some various technical issues, but the worst part about it was the guy, and even apologized up front, but that shouldn't be the case. You shouldn't put your 8th string up for something like this. So he's massacring every Spanish word, every Hispanic name that comes along. I mean, just destroying them. And even made a point of saying he's lived here for 8 years, but he came from Louisiana and they don't roll their R's. I'm like, yeah, but you've lived here 8 years. Have you not learned how to at least pronounce what you read? One of my pet peeves as being on an Air Force base is that we are never lacking for ceremony in the military. We like to have our presentations. We like to have our awards. We like to have our promotion ceremonies, our retirement ceremonies. But it never ceases to amaze me that they'll pick an MC who just destroys people's names. To me, it's not rocket science to simply say, okay, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, and then go contact the person and say, hey, I've got to read your name as part of this script. Tell me how to pronounce your name. So if I have to write it down phonetically, fine. But get it right. Don't destroy their name. And likewise, in an event like this, find someone who's a cold read. If this was a last minute thing, surely you could find somebody who can cold read this better than what was there. I was embarrassed for him. I was embarrassed for Del Rio. I was embarrassed for the country to have it so badly torn up. And I'm not trying to be mean about this, but I just think it was a bad choice all around. I'm tempted to talk to the coordinator for this and say, hey, if this ever comes up again where you need somebody on the fly. I took a semester of Spanish when I was in high school. I did well with it, but I brain dumped it because, this is Joplin, Missouri in 1979. I never, ever thought I'd be needing Spanish. I actually wanted to take French, but they didn't offer French. So I thought, okay, well, I'll take Spanish. So I took Spanish, and I did well with it, but I thought I will never need this again. Of course, here I am now in Del Rio, Texas, and I refuse, as an American, as a personal choice, I refuse to learn Spanish. I think English is the international language of commerce and travel, okay? It is. Airline pilots are required to be able to speak and understand reasonably well English for travel. It's that simple. And I will always, to my dying breath, I will insist that the United States should make English its official language. Because if you don't, it's going to be horrible. It really is. So I refuse on principle to learn Spanish. But I think it's the height of disrespect not to learn how to pronounce words properly if they are in another language, and names even more so if they are not supposed to be pronounced like an Anglo. I mean, to say Mr. Vasquez, I'm like, what? No, Vasquez. It's that simple. And like I said, every name, every Spanish word was destroyed. Just let me know. I can sing Spanish. I've done it before. I can read it cold. I understand the syntax. I understand how the consonants and the vowels are used. I understand how they're pronounced. Like anybody else, I can make a mistake and I can stumble, but it would have not been an embarrassment like this was. It was interesting, and everybody around me was just shaking their heads and rolling their eyes at that. So I was really disappointed that we allowed that to happen. That didn't have to happen. So it was interesting, to say the least. But other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play? So it went well outside of that. And of course, our very own Courtney Jones, the Miss Del Rio for 2014-2015, represented very well. She and her court were there and looking great and represented Del Rio well. And she's really busy this weekend with all of the Fiesta de Amistad activities that are going on. So let's see. Went diving the weekend before last, and I told you that I was going to try and share the video with you because I didn't have time to put that together. So I finally did, and so let me give you an idea. This is after the lake had come up another 4 feet or so from the weekend before. So I knew the visibility was probably going to be less than optimal. And so for those of you, again, who are trying to get an idea what diving is like in Del Rio at Lake Amistad, as a matter of fact, I did get a couple of emails from people who are from outside the area or looking to do some diving here. And so I said, make sure you watch the netcast this weekend because I'm going to show some video on it. See if there's anybody in the chat room. Nope. So, nice. Got way too many things open there. So, without any further ado, let me bring up the... Thanks. So you can see I'm towing my dive flag rope there, looking for the spot that I normally tie it off out there. Now it was at like 37 feet, something like that. This is at depth. To just give you an idea, all the stuff that's strewn about down there. Cinder blocks. What was cool is I'm around here looking at all this stuff, and I got surprised with close encounter here. A pretty good sized catfish. Normally don't have them come up like this. They normally see me in the light and they take off quickly. Stuff kind of defy description, or they may not defy description but defy comprehension as to why they're there. This is the seat from a car. Another visit from my friendly catfish. We got really close. Yeah, so the visibility was not nearly as good as it has been. Case where if you know where the wall is, you can get pretty far away from it, where you're very very quickly where you can't see the wall, but as long as you know how to use your compass, you can always work your way back to the wall. There are like 3 or 4 drums, oil drums or whatever. This is after I did my 3-minute safety stop, and I was able to switch the camera to shallow diving, which changes the filter on it, so you can get this is without benefit of light. This is just the ambient light. This gives you an idea really what the visibility and the coloring looks like at about 15 feet.
Savor the excitement of the city and the beauty of the country in Central Arkansas.
I hate auto-loading videos. I'm hoping to get a dive in tomorrow. See what it looks like. That's assuming that I can actually get out to Spur 454. There we go. Okay, so that was 2 weekends ago out at Spur 454. So you can see visibility is not great. I think very, very possibly tomorrow I will be diving in my 5 mil full again. The last few weeks I've been able to do the 3 mil shorty, but this year has just been a cooler summer. You know, global warming is a bunch of BS. And we've not seen that here in Del Rio. But so the water temperatures have been cooler. And I've not spent much of the year diving in my 3 mil shorty. So as the temperatures have begun to drop, because our evenings have been very cool here. Well, for me, cold. The water temperatures have been slowly dropping. I think 3 weeks ago the water temp was 77, and then the weekend of this dive it was down to 74, 76. So it's, you know, it is dropping. So the 3 mil shorty is probably going to be too chilly at this point. It's at least going at any kind of depth. So I'll probably, if the weather allows for a dive tomorrow, I'll probably jump in the 5 mil full for that, so that when I get out of the water, I'm not freezing. Interesting. Okay. So about the zombie apocalypse. The funny thing, well, it's not funny. It's odd. The interesting coincidence about what's going on now with Ebola is how our government's reacting to it, or lack thereof. Of course, we've been told, it's the likelihood of people getting to the United States with Ebola is practically non-existent, and yet here we are. We've done nothing to stop. We've done nothing to actually stop people from coming to the United States from the infected areas. Nothing. We're supposedly doing this stupid check your temperature thing, but that doesn't even tell you anything. You can be infected. You can already be infected and not show any symptoms. You'll be a carrier, and the average is 21 days to incubate. But here's the thing. Well, there's something got our dogs all crazy outside there. So my wife is banging on the window trying to get their attention, find out what's going on. Make sure you take a flashlight with you. No. So, I mean, they're just going nuts here. That's really annoying. Over a microphone. Hazel, come here. I'm going to mute the mic for a moment. So this is Hazel. This is our foster, and she's getting annoyed at all the dogs outside. I don't know what they're reacting to. I'll bet our neighbors have brought, every once in a while, our neighbors have some friends, well, pull them in and close the door. Just grab her and pull the door closed. Grab her and take her out and close the door. You're going to have to actually grab her, sweetheart. She is not going to go with you willingly. I got her scared. Yeah, our neighbors like to bring relatives over, have their dogs, and when they get added to the mix out there, it's just crazy. So I apologize for the craziness here with the dogs, but that's the nature of the beast when you have the fur kids. So anyway, as I was saying, the claims were that we were well prepared to handle anything to do with Ebola. The fact has been that we're not prepared. In fact, what we've heard are the two things that you most commonly hear in every zombie movie or every mass infection apocalypse movie. You either hear the government telling you there's really nothing to be afraid of, or you hear we've got everything under control. And we've heard both of those from our government on this, and they're not prepared for it. That's clear. As a matter of fact, if you hear some of the interviews with various nurses unions and and just nurses in general, what you're hearing is that they're not being told or given by the CDC or anybody else for that matter a standard set of protocols for handling Ebola. I mean, they're just not getting that information. From a person who looks at processes, I find this absolutely unacceptable and unconscionable. And not only that, it's potentially deadly. Now, you've got people, especially liberals, you got people saying, oh, we don't need to be fear-mongering. And by all means, I am not all about fear-mongering. Creating, inciting panic or worry about this. But we can't go hard over in the other direction and pretend like there's not a big deal. Well, we've only got 2 people infected that we know of in the United States. We have this Thomas Duncan who came into the United States infected. And so he was in contact with a number of people while he was infected before he got to the hospital. So he gets to the Dallas hospital, and before everybody knew that he had Ebola, they were handling him the way they would normally handle anybody who was experiencing some, a typical kind of sickness, flu, whatever. So as a result, now we have 2 confirmed nurses who were part of the crew that was dealing with him, who are now showing signs. And guess what? One got on a flight on October 13th while she was infected. Now, that means that any number of those people could potentially have been infected. And the other one, if I understand correctly, or hopefully I'm not confusing 2 different stories, but one was on a cruise ship and actually quarantined himself because he started feeling the symptoms. And so now the ship is having to come back to Galveston to handle whatever the potential is there. And then we see haphazard ways of actually disinfecting or sanitizing the homes or apartments that these people are living in, etc. I mean, it is unacceptable to me as a citizen and as a person who has common sense that we don't have a standard process already for handling highly infectious, almost exclusively fatal diseases like Ebola. There obviously is a treatment, experimental in type, that has been successful, but it's one of those things that it's a ridiculous, a crazy set of circumstances to actually create this serum that is we're out of it. So they have to, and on top of that, we have a government that creates so many roadblocks to companies working up potential treatments for these kinds of things that it's prohibitive. It makes it very, very difficult, costly, etc., for them to do it. Yes, I understand we want to prevent snake oil salesmen from getting nuts out here. Oh, I've got the cure for everything for you. But these are no kidding scientists and pharmaceutical companies. Yes, I know people hate pharmaceutical, big pharma. But they're investing a lot of time and resources to come up with solutions for these things. And so we're just making it more expensive and more prohibitive by throwing roadblocks. But having said that, so we've got relatively small cure, which guess what? If you go by every science fiction movie, that means that only select few will get that. Have you been watching I cannot believe I'm drawing a blank on the series. This is going to drive me up the wall if I can't remember what this is. I think it's an ABC series. Spelling is important. Last Resort. At the end of their first season, the cure for this mysterious disease that was killing off everybody, the Red Death, this mysterious disease, the doctor on board this ship, a Navy ship, found the cure, and then they went back to try to hook up with CDC, or what was left of the American government, because it was a worldwide epidemic. And the government had decided, what was left of the government and they're kind of doing this also clandestinely, wants to get the serum, and they only want to give it to those who are deserving. So, their plan is to get rid of the riffraff. And then, of course, there is the riffraff they're trying to get rid of is also trying to destroy their power, over people. So, there are no good people other than those seemingly part of the Nathan James, which is the ship involved in this series. But it's these kinds of shows that give you an example of the kind of evil and incompetence that exists in our government, and that just makes this kind of thing move ever so slowly from science fiction to reality. And so, like I said, every show, every science fiction movie, every zombie apocalypse movie has started this same way. So here's the thing. We don't need to panic. We need to keep ourselves smart about this. But it just goes to show you that how important it is to be aware of your surroundings, be aware of who you're coming in contact with, and just use some common sense about your own personal hygiene. Don't just ignore things that might be going on with you. It may not be an Ebola thing. It might be something else. But we tend to communicate more common diseases very frequently because we're not paying attention. We're not taking care of ourselves. We're not paying attention. So we get a common cold, and then the cold makes its rounds. My wife has been slowly getting over this stuff that causes drainage and coughing, just ridiculous coughing fits, upper respiratory tightness, and sore throat, etc. And the problem is we have a tendency for these things to go around, and we even say it. Well, he's got that thing that's been going around. Well, why is it going around? What is it we're doing? What is it we're not doing that's allowing that kind of thing to go around? And you can see it in the examples of these movies. You'll see patient zero they'll make a dramatic bit about showing this person how they move through and how this person touched this person, and then they touch 3 people and they touch 4 people, and then you see the spread and you see the graphic showing all the dots coming up all over the map of people who are the spread of it and how many deaths are involved, all that. So this kind of thing absolutely is serious, and we have to be aware. We have to make sure that don't take for granted that your government is telling you the truth. Don't take for granted that even doctors that they put up on TV are telling you the truth. There's a series, Helix, on Sci-Fi Channel. I think it's actually coming back for a new season. And the heroes in this show are some people from the CDC. Now, what the sad irony here is, we've been led to believe that the CDC is led by and manned by very, very intelligent, very, very worst case scenario thinking people that are really up on the latest kinds of diseases and protocols, how to deal with them. Even if they don't have cures for things, we're led to believe through fiction, through news reports, etc., that they're supposed to be the best of the best when it comes to dealing with and containing potential disease outbreaks. And here we find, in a real-world situation, the absolute opposite is true. Now, that's not a slam against all the great people that may work at the various centers for the disease control, but from a leadership standpoint, it shows that. Okay, I'm going to mute the microphone here a second. Okay, apologize for that. Our foster dog is going off the rails again. So anyway, but we seem to have this attitude, and it's more the liberals than anybody who are saying this, that we shouldn't stop the spread into our country. We have this the head of the CDC actually saying that he's more worried about affecting the economies of the countries that are dealing with this, because we decide we're going to stop all but the most properly screened, like military flights and specific the special aircraft that are designed for transporting people with highly communicable diseases, stopping all but those from coming to the United States. Since when is it the purview, the business of the CDC to care about the economy of another country? How about being concerned with the health of citizens of our country? That's the appropriate role for the CDC, not this garbage about the economies of the countries. I personally could care less about the economy of any other country. If we're all dying here, screw those countries. It's not important in the big scheme of things. The bottom line is we have a highly communicable disease that can spread like a wildfire if somebody makes one really bad mistake. And we've not seen the fallout yet from the two that are currently diagnosed and have already made the mistake of being in contact in close quarters with other people. We don't know what the fallout is from that. We may yet see a cascade effect, because if, let's say, just 2 people on that airline, that Frontier airline, that the one nurse flew on the 13th, let's just say that, because it's 21-day incubation period, let's just say 21 days from now, we see 2 people from that flight are showing symptoms. before that 21-day period, they could also have been in close quarters and contact with other people. That 21 days later, they show symptoms. That's the problem with a disease like this. When it takes 2 to 3 weeks before you start seeing symptoms, the opportunity for it to spread very quickly, exponentially, can happen without preparation. And some of these people may be in areas where are not metropolitan. They're not much better off than people who are living in the third world countries that are currently dealing with the outbreak. And here's another thing that angers me about this whole issue is we've been told from the beginning that it's not communicable until you're showing symptoms. And I've heard more than one doctor say this is not true. And common sense tells you it's not true. Here's the thing. The way one of the doctors who explained it best, I think, the way he explained it is this: 21 days on average to show symptoms. But that just means that the virus has multiplied enough in your body to actually cause enough damage for symptoms to be obvious. Okay? So think about this. If I'm chopping at a tree, breaking it down. If I'm chopping down a tree and I'm just taking little chips here and there, just for a while, there's not enough, I'm not digging enough, chopping away enough wood to weaken the tree so that it falls down and crushes somebody or a house that's next to it. But eventually I get to a point, I'm still chopping away, so I'm still doing damage, but eventually I get chopped away enough that it weakens enough that it's able to collapse with one push, okay? So imagine the virus, as soon as you get infected, imagine the virus over a 21-day period is multiplying. It gets in your system, and by the way, you're not necessarily just starting with one virus. If you happen to come in contact with the body fluids, sweat, vomit, urine, feces, whatever, if you happen to come in contact with the body fluids of a person who's infected, you're more than likely not getting just one virus. You're getting a pool of them at whatever accumulation that has reached, saturation point of the virus has accumulated in their body. So you're getting that to start off with. So all of those that you've now got in your body, in your system, are beginning to duplicate because you're such a great host. So they're multiplying and they're spreading through your system and they're starting to do damage. 21 days before you start exhibiting symptoms, but that doesn't mean that it's suddenly 21 days they all explode into enough to hurt you. They've been duplicating that whole time. You've been a carrier with a growing population of Ebola virus in your system over that time, over that 21-day period. Now, I think the picking of the nits, the fine thread that our government and the head of the CDC and others are trying to persuade you with is saying it's not, but when they say it's not communicable until you're exhibiting symptoms, is really a left-handed way of saying you're not likely to transmit to another person the virus, some of the virus, until you've been damaged enough to create symptoms that cause you to vomit, to go to a place where somebody may come in contact with your feces or urine or other bodily fluids. So in other words, let's say you're 10 days into the what's the word I'm looking for? Not incubation, because it's not like they're dormant till then. Let's say you're 10 days into the multiplication of this virus throughout your system, and you happen to have acquired an actual flu, or you've acquired, you have allergies. It's just a thing you deal with. I live in this area and cedar is high and I've got allergies, and so I'm sneezing a lot. Guess what? you're now communicating the disease because you've got some in your system and you have another malady that's causing you to expel to other people. If you don't have good practices like covering your mouth, or better, doing this number, it's a bad idea to cover your hand, use your hand, because we tend to touch other things and shake people's hands with hands that we've just coughed in or whatever. So it's a mischaracterization at best and a lie at worst. At the worst, to say you're not, the disease can't be transmitted unless you're showing symptoms. That's simply not true. Different people are going to reach a threshold where the virus is duplicated enough to do damage to them, where they would create situations where it's transmitted, where you become a transmitter because you are projectile, whatever. But a number of things could allow your fluids that are carrying a sufficient pool of the virus in you to still infect people. So it just angers me that common sense is hiding the truth or allowing people to be blind to the truth about a disease like this. So I'm just saying, don't trust your government when they say everything's under control. We're prepared for this. They're not. Not when you hear doctors and nurses already saying, we have no clue what the protocols are. As a matter of fact, there was a lot of hullabaloo made over the picture of the nurse that was I think it was the nurse that was transported to be treated. They had and they've shown picture and video of this, and everybody's like going, what's going on here? You see 4 or 5 people in the full hazmat suits, and they're taking the patient to this specially prepared aircraft. And then right there with them, right there with the patient, you see a guy with a clipboard, and he's not wearing anything. And then finally, the reason for this, everybody's asking why. So finally, the reason was shared, saying it's an intentional part of the protocol for a person to not be in the hazmat suits, because they give a number of reasons which were stupid. Their visibility, because of the suits, they can't see everything they need to, and this guy's there to be their extension and to make sure everything happens correctly. What kind of idiocy does that tell you is going on, that is running amok in the CDC, in some of our hospitals, when the protocol includes a specific requirement for someone not to be in a hazmat suit, properly protected against somebody who's wearing a deadly, highly contagious, highly communicable disease? How is that intelligent? How is that saying that we're prepared for this? This is ridiculous. So one thing I'm grateful for is that I live in Del Rio, Texas. We're on the border, which has its own problems because it's like a sieve. Anybody can come across here. It's a joke to say it's closed. So any of these people could be coming here any way that they want to. But at least we're off the beaten path when it comes to international flights, when it comes to airfare or airlines. We lost one airline that we had earlier this year, so you have to drive to San Antonio to fly out anywhere. But so I'm kind of glad we're remote and isolated in some aspects, but that also means that if it does get here, if Ebola does happen to make it here, somebody going on one of those trips and happens to come back to Del Rio or come to visit friends and family in Del Rio, we do not have a hospital that's prepared to deal with this. We would have to go to San Antonio and hope and pray that BAMC or one of the other specialist hospitals there is prepared. Now, one would hope that given the visibility that these doctors and nurses are complaining about, the lack of consistent protocols that CDC is not shared, okay, here's what everybody needs to do if you have anybody come in that you even suspect might be infected with Ebola, the all of these hospitals need to be shared these protocols. They should already begin purchasing the necessary supplies, equipment, suits, etc., to deal with this. Because the truth is, we don't know how fast this is going to spread. There are estimates all over the map right now. Some are saying that we've got it under control, we've got it contained. Now that we're aware that's going to create a safer way to deal with it, people are going to be paying attention. As soon as they feel any symptoms, they're going to go to hospitals and say, hey, do I have Ebola? Well, I also think that many people will avoid them. We've already heard reports from the Dallas hospital where the Mr. Duncan had been treated and died, that there are people who are not going to that hospital. They're leaving. They were under treatment for whatever, and they're leaving, or they're canceling appointments. So we're creating a situation where people are kind of isolating themselves out of fear that they're going to a place where they will contract it, because they've already seen that many, if not most of our hospitals are not prepared to deal with this, because people are dying. Okay? People are getting infected. So you need to take the proper precautions. You need to use some common sense. Don't get panicky over things, but just be aware. Take the proper precautions to keep good hygiene, good practices. If you are prone to allergies, make sure that you're not coughing and spitting and sneezing all over people around you. Don't cough with your hand over your mouth. Use a napkin or use your sleeve or something like that, because you're more than likely to unintentionally touch somebody, and you may have some residue on your hand that could be carrying the virus. And if you happen to touch an area that can internalize that medium, then you've potentially infected somebody with not even just Ebola, which is whatever. If you're dealing with a flu, you could be infecting them with that. Just get into good practices that take care of yourself and take care of those around you. Don't go crazy and acting like they do in Japan and some of these other places where everybody runs around looking like Michael Jackson and wears a hospital mask. That's stupid. That's overdoing it. That's panicky. But just use some common sense, and we can't trust our government to tell us the truth about these kinds of things. And if you're a conspiracy theorist and you see shows like Last Resort or see any of these zombie movies, for all you know, it's actually they're actually going to say, let's use this crisis for our advantage. Let's see if we can either make people more dependent upon us or get rid of the people that we don't want. And I don't ascribe necessarily to that, but I do know that our current regime, our current administration has often received benefit of the advice of, I believe it was Rahm Emanuel, who said, never let a good crisis go to waste. So take that for what it's worth. So, all right, well, we're running way late here, but I had to share some of that with you. Let's do Administrivia. Oh, man. Well, this is what the new version, this is funny. This is what the new version of the XSplit software did to the titling. I forgot to check this part of it when I updated the software, which is pretty wild. There is a built-in scroll feature, but even though that's not what's set for some reason, it automatically started scrolling the text, which is interesting. So anyway, and I don't have the correct date there for the next dive club meeting. That's actually 20 November. And yes, as it says here in the scroll by, at this point, dive classes for the rest of 2014 are totally by request only. And it's starting to get chilly out there, so I would caution you now, if you are even thinking about requesting a scuba class, you might as well already get ready to wear your 5 mil full wetsuit because it's temperatures dropping. If you need air fills, go out to Broke Mill RV Park out on Highway 90 West, just past the new loop. They've got a big cascade system where they can do air fills. Just give Mike McCarson a call at 830-719-2935. And then also, Tara and I volunteer weekly at a Pet's Wish, which is a local pet rescue. Not a shelter, but a pet rescue. And they desperately need more help. I can't tell you how difficult it is coming in there every Monday night to work with the animals there, knowing that they may or may not have had anybody taking care of them during the day or the days that we're not able to help. Sorry, speaking of pets, I was lifting up Ronan to get back up here. He's whining. If you want to keep up with our comings and goings, our what's going on, visit our website delriodiveclub.com, or to keep up with the absolute latest, because we're very active on the Facebook. So just look us up on Facebook, Del Rio Dive Club, or send us a message through Skype. Just look for TGWD. And also, if you'd like to converse with me, you can follow me on Twitter. I warn you, I'm a bit of a political activist, and also I hate Apple and Google. So you'll probably see a lot of stuff posted about that. But I also tweet about diving, which I'll be tweeting about diving for tomorrow if the weather holds. Or you can just look for me on Twitter at Robert CFP. CFP stands for Ceti Fox Productions. Or you can send me an email. Just send it to robert.wade@cetifox.net. And we're Scuba Bob here. You could follow him on Twitter. Just look for @RSGarza435. Or send him an email, scubabob821@outlook.com. And really disappointed he wasn't able to be here today. But obviously the dogs were having a wild time with whatever's going on, so I'm sure you heard them. But hopefully you got something out of the show. Didn't see anybody in the chat room. But hopefully you got something you can use out of the show. And send us an email, contact us, give us ideas, questions. If you jump in the chat room live while we're doing the show, you can interact with us because we do check the chat room. And if you have questions, and sometimes people actually have answers for us when we're trying to talk about a subject and something comes up and we're trying to remember something. More than once, we've had somebody actually answer, fill in the blank for us in the chat room. So that's helpful too. So we always love to hear from you. You can always watch us on YouTube afterward because we do upload the podcast to our YouTube channel. Just look for Ceti Fox Productions or look for Scubadog 2008, and you'll find our videos, which we post on there. As always, we love to hear from you, and we love when you're able to watch the show, either live or on Memorex on YouTube. And we'll see what happens for next week. Hopefully, Scuba Bob will remember he actually has an appointment Saturday nights at 8 o'clock. So we will see you once again next time on another exciting episode of Two Guys Who Dive. See ya.